Now, the starting lineup for the Keeping It Real show. From Oak Point, Texas, it's the Tokyo Tex, the Kamikaze Cowboy, the Sukiyaki Jockey, the MOT, the Man of Trail, Tim Kimura! And from the home of the San Antonio Spurs, the captain of the team, the man with the dream, the man behind the wheel for Keeping It Real, Brad Jewett!
Hello, everybody. Let us know where you're tuning in from tonight. I'm Brad Jewett.
I'm Tim, the Trailman.
Keeping it real.
And now, Brad and Tim.
Wayne, introduce yourself.
And now, the starting lineups for the Keeping It Real show. From Oak Point, Texas, the Kamikaze Cowboy, the Tokyo Tex, the Sukiyaki Jockey, the MOT, the Man of Trail, Tim Kimura. And now, from the home of the San Antonio Spurs, the captain of the team, the man with the dream, the man behind the wheel, and keeping it real, Brad Jewett. Here we go, Timmy.
Good evening.
We are pumped about this night. As you can see, our honorary hats that we are wearing tonight. And I wore my glasses for Mr. Cy over there so I could match the Man of Trail.
Make trail great again. Thank you.
I love it. Tim, thanks for starting that. Thanks for getting the little hint from your buddy over there in Pilot Point, Texas, because
sir.
it is caught on with a fury, as we will see tonight. Anything new you want to share before we bring on these three legends?
No, I just see a lot of those Tommy Sheet fans out there. You know, Miss
what?
Stacy's out there, Grant's out there. Yeah, I see you guys out there.
Get out of here.
That's why I'm wearing the red. That's why I'm wearing the red.
Oh,
You know,
red
so.
for Tommy. Yeah.
There you go.
Team
Just
red.
telling ya. Hey,
Team red.
Team red.
Anybody knows
Team
it.
red.
Well, hey, without any further ado, how about we bring these dudes in and dudette? Miss Nancy Cahill, Mr. Jeff Mellott, and Mr. Tommy Sheets. There we go. We've got a great crowd tonight to start right at 7 o'clock. I love that. This is awesome. Awesome. Because we got a lot of information, a lot of do's and don'ts from some very revered horsemen in our industry that I know people like myself, straight up, like I've for a decade, or more than a decade, what am I saying? Have been like, every time these three are coaching somebody, I've like got my cup up to their wall over there.
Right.
Like, what in the heck are they saying? Because they can say more in like 5 words, not 5 sentences, but like 5 words to get the point across that takes me like 5 minutes. So, Tim, let's roll. Let's get these people talking.
Let me just say that when I hear these three coach, it's like going to school. Okay, I mean, I listen to them teach their people, and it's so orderly in how they're saying it. So basic, but just the order in how they say it, you can tell how organized they are with their thoughts.
Yes.
So I'm going to introduce these three real quick. I'm going to start with Tommy, then Nancy, then Jeff. So Mr. Tommy Sheets, please introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, where you live currently, and tell me about your business. Sir.
Good evening. My name's Tommy Sheets. And first of all, I'd like to thank Brad and Tim for putting this together.
Absolutely.
And I have
Thank
been
you.
a big fan, and I've been watching, and I've enjoyed it. I've learned a lot, and I really appreciate you all taking the time and putting this together. I am from New Albany, Indiana. I was born and raised there. I live in Jeffersonville, Indiana, which is just north of Louisville, Kentucky, with my wife of 30 years, Leslie. We have one son, Murphy, who works for the PGA and lives in West Palm Beach, Florida. My training facility is in New Albany, Indiana. I've been a horse trainer for 35 years.
Did you say Murphy works for the GA?
PGA.
Like the professional golf deal?
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Wow.
Very
Wow.
cool.
Okay, Nancy, I'm going to go swing to you now. So talk to me and tell me where you're from and where you're born and raised, please.
I'm Nancy Cahill, and I want to tell these two guys that are running this thing, I had no idea how difficult it is to run this show until I got involved with it. So thank you so much for doing it.
Thanks.
I was born in Texas City, Texas. I live in Madisonville, Texas now, so I'm a native Texan. Married to Bubba Cahill for 47 years, and I've been training horses for 52 years.
Wow.
Yeah, before dirt. I have two great kids. Cannon and his wife Macy have two little children, a girl and a boy, and Quincy, my daughter, and her husband Dustin have three little girls who live right across the driveway. So I'm one lucky grandma.
You bet.
Wow. Okay, Jeffrey, Mr. Mellott, Team Green. Here we go. Talk to me, Jeff Mellott.
Dip your head down. Dip your head down. Jeff, dip your head down there so we can see your green hat.
Green hat. Yeah.
Only one of two green hats that I have of that.
and you're welcome, Jeff. Absolutely. We thank you for coming. Go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
I sure appreciate it. I'm here in Aubrey, Texas now, working at Highpoint. I'm originally from Peabody, Kansas. Spent about the last 30 years in Peabody, Kansas, did a stint in Colorado, and now I'm here. I've got three children, Kaylee, Jessica, Jordan, and my wife of 24 years almost now, Dawn. Glad to be here.
Awesome.
You know, everyone really knows all three of you, so the intros are very short. I respect.
Tim, can I say something before you go to questions? Do you realize if you add all their years of training up, we have 100 years of horse training almost. 100 years. That's not saying y'all are old. That's saying that you're very, very accomplished.
Well, that means they're full of information that I'm going to pry out of them tonight. That's for darn sure. Okay. So, you know, I told these three, I love the history of trail. My friend Michael Damianos is on the line. He's the one that taught me how to do this. And I told him about this tonight, and it's so historical to bring you guys back into history. So let's go back a little bit, because I love this, and discuss how the trail classes have evolved throughout the years. And I want to start with Tommy tonight. So just tell us what you think happened back in the day for Trailman. Absolutely. So in 1974, the first World Show was in Louisville, Kentucky. And that's just, I'm 10 miles from Louisville, Kentucky. So I attended the first World Show, and I watched the trail. In the trail, they had a mule just tied to a stake, and they also had a crate of ducks in a wooden crate. And so it was very interesting to see how trails evolved to this point. That year, Hattie Carter's mother was the world champion in 1974. She won the junior trail. When I attended my first World Show in 95, Hattie Carter's mother helped me. So that's just how much it has evolved in my lifetime. You know, and this was the way they used to stack the poles. And Tim calls that a chimney, correct, Tim? Yes, sir. And that's go ahead. And that's the way they stacked the poles.
That's crazy.
With the
chimney, yeah. Looks like something you'd see in the orchard in California. Keep the fruit. That's where we got them, from our fences. Okay, Nancy, you want to add on to that?
Sure. Well, in 1974, I had just graduated college, so let's go back another 10 years or so. And when I saw the trail, if they even had trail in our horse shows in Texas, you had 4 poles, a bridge, and a gate. And I don't even know that you had to trot, lope, and walk those same 4 poles. It was pretty simple, and nobody could do it, even though it was pretty simple. And the first time I saw Tim's courses was in Tucson, Arizona, and I had never seen anything like that in my life. And I determined that I should go home and get a lot better because that was something very new that Texas hadn't seen. the Californians had been doing much more difficult things for a long time, but not east of Arizona and New Mexico, California. We did not know how to do that. So it was real simple back then.
Okay, hang on. Conan, throw up the trail course picture for me for a second before I go to Jeffrey.
Hey, while we're waiting for this trail course, Jeff, there's a lot of people talking about your beard. I'm just saying, you go.
Yeah.
I love it. Everybody's like, we didn't even recognize Jeff. I love it.
Like coronavirus beard. The first
It's the
Horseman.
COVID-19 beard.
Or actually, the course is Conan, but that's okay. So this is, I'm just going to show you guys a few courses. That's my World Show course from last year and from Vegas. And it just is, it's evolved, right? I mean, like Nancy's saying, let me see the course is one. That's the pattern trail. What do they call them? Trail. Yeah, trail. Sorry about that. So I'm just going to say, I pulled out a couple of ones from the 80s, right? And it looks like, well, Nancy said the other day, where's all the poles at? So I made my statement back in 95, 96, 97. I said, wow, I've got trailers loads of poles. And here we go. So just a little contrast from the 80s to the 90s patterns. And like I said, I was just making a statement there. So Jeffrey, that's good. So Jeffrey, let's go back. Kind of tell me how you saw it evolved and stuff like that throughout the years.
So when I first started doing trail in 4-H, actually, while you did the obstacles, which would be 4 or 5, a ground tie, maybe jump a bale of hay, leading the horse over it, a bridge. Then when I went to college, or at the end of that, actually, then you had rail work after you did the course. In between my freshman and sophomore year of college, I worked for a gentleman by the name of David Parma, Dr. David Parma in Utah. He did a lot of trail, has won the world a couple of times. And in Utah, we would work with the horses going over water boxes with floating plywood with holes in it that would squirt up through the top. We had lots of different deals, lots of tire work, would set up tires and walk through the tires. So it's come a long ways to your courses from what I first experienced back then.
Right. So, Conan, I know you can grab those 2 black and whites that I wanted to also, please. So, just a little trivia, too. I was going to say, you know, besides Pat Carter winning the junior that year, my friend Karen Dunlap had her horse win the senior back in 1974 on Reno's Dandy. And then...
Tim, real quick, Conan's bringing those pictures up. It's just going to take a second. He put those in the intro. He didn't realize that you wanted them as their own.
But a little trivia for us, because Tommy showed me these pictures today. Reno's Dandy was a horse that won the senior trail the first year in 1974, and it was ridden by Sandy Hanna, and the owner was this Karen Dunlap. Karen Dunlap. I didn't know this lady at first until they helped me with that, right? But this Karen Dunlap girl, she was 14 years old, and she told me that she went to the Congress and won the youth trail with over 100 horses in it in the Cooper Arena the same year. So it's Reno's Dandy horse, first senior horse, trail horse, alias Karen Graham, alias Karen Stone, et cetera, et cetera.
Check that out. New sponsor.
Add a little trivia to that Tommy shared with us. So Nancy, I'm going to bring it back to you. If there was a trail obstacle or obstacles that you'd like to see again, or stuff that I might have brought along back in the 90s, is there something you share with us that you like that maybe I should think about doing again?
I loved one of the World Show finals where there were 4 bridges that you went on with poles, and they were set in a square. And I don't know if you can see this or not.
Lower it just right there. Up just a little bit. There you go. That's good right there.
Okay. You just mounted the bridge, and then like on the diagonals, there were poles, and it was very loud because you'd think you were hitting poles, but it was just those horses hitting the bridge really hard. And it was quite tricky. And I thought it was really a wonderful obstacle. Wow. And then the second one, when we were in Tucson, and I don't know if you can see this one or not, but
there you go, right there.
Okay. You would side pass, and when you side passed, your front feet didn't just turn the corner. They had to reach forward around the tip end of another pole to get around it. We had something similar, I think, at Prairie Classic, but the pole wasn't stuck out nearly that far. And it requires a horse to really think about what he's doing. He can't rock back going around that turn. He has to actually stretch to make it.
Wow.
I love that one.
What was wrong with the guy who drew that? That just doesn't seem right to make you guys do all that kind of stuff. What was he thinking? That's like in the 90s, right? Actually, that pole wasn't sticking out as much as that. It was probably sticking out 4 or 5 inches, like one.
No, it was
right.
1 foot. It was 1 foot.
Come on, man.
Oh.
It wasn't that mean back in the day. that after Prairie Classic and Arizona too, I've watched people side pass around that corner, and maybe we should practice that a little bit more. But anyways, just because you showed that to me, it's on my radar again to have a little more sticking out corner on that side pass, FYI, right? Okay, Mr. Mellott, you're up. Tell me what obstacles you like. Yeah, I'm just telling you guys.
I've got 2 of them I really kind of would like to see again. One of them's one you had at the Youth World, which was the side pass tee, where you had the side pass down to the right, move your front end through the gap, keep passing to the right, then pass back up the pole to the left, move your back end through, and go across. I thought that showed a lot of control, and really, if it was done smoothly, it was really pretty. The other thing, just from the old school, is sometimes I think we've lost the art of the forehand turn and being able to stay on a pivot in the front end. So the tire, stepping into the tire and being able to do a forehand turn, I think is another art that is a little bit lost today.
So one thing on that, I'll reference my friend Michael again. So the other day on my Facebook page, if you were wondering what he's talking about, back at the day in Cow Palace, I know Michael had a pattern where he had a half tire. We didn't use a full tire, but a half tire, and where you had to step your front legs in and do a forehand turn around that tire. And I had like a 9-year-old trying to do that. And then Nancy, before I go to Tommy, how about the bridge and that side pass on that bridge too? We talked about a little bit.
Yes, that you would like put your front feet on the bridge and then take your horses back around, which is what Jeff's talking about. You better have your forehand turn ready and in motion, but you also have to keep them really straight, and they can't rock back. They can't step forward. It's a very tricky maneuver, very doable. It just takes a lot of practice and patience.
Patience.
I think patience for sure. We heard that today.
We're going to hear that a lot today, I think.
Okay, Mr. Tommy Sheets, tell me about how we have clashed a little bit. Here it goes.
Okay. What I really like, I like that obstacle where you have to trot and stop, straddle the pole, and then side pass it. Because that really shows if that horse will stop and stand still. And, just like they just said, patience. It's hard. A lot of those horses with so much training, when you stop on top of that pole, they have to stand in the ground. They cannot move.
Right.
And, that's a challenging obstacle, and that really shows that when you tell that horse to stop, he's got to stand still. All feet stay on the ground. So, I've always loved that obstacle, and I like those walks with a cross pole across them too.
Right.
We've got those horses so programmed, on everything, and throw something, a little cross pole over there where they have to pay attention to where those feet are. And
yeah, I kind of go back to that video we showed when Charlie was on here. Remember that World Show video?
Right.
What year that was when you had those poles underneath the poles, a little cross pole there, is kind of where my mind's going as Tommy's talking about that.
Absolutely. And once again, you've got to know where every single foot is and where they're landing at all times.
So here's a good question real quick, Tim. Ann Olausen just, hi, Ann, by the way. It's a really quick question. It's a yes or no question, I think. She said, Conan, can you pop that one on the screen? It said, did trail get harder in the 90s and then easier today, vice versa? What's your, because some of the obstacles you're talking about, to us right now, that seems really hard. But then you put all our pinwheels and serpentines and this kind of stuff. What you guys have done both. So what would your comments be on that?
I think some of the 90s patterns were
sorry.
a little more, they were a little trappier at times. You had to do, one year at the World Show in the finals, he had a kind of a rectangle set up, and you had to work your way into the center and then back out. So some of that was a little more, you had to have a better sense of where you were at to get ready to go where you were going, instead of just the common float around the wheel.
Nancy, Tommy, y'all want to comment on that? Harder or easier in the 90s?
You know, we have so many great horse trainers right now and great horses. I mean, and it's just gotten so tough. And it's just a great example of how it's evolved and how good everyone has become.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And what Tim has done for our trail, you know, as far as our entries, our numbers. And it's definitely challenging every time you go to a horse show, because he keeps it interesting. But, I mean, it's always a challenge every time you go to a horse show.
Nancy?
I don't know if they're harder or not. You might be right. They might have been a little trappier. I think Tim has given us a little room. Your transitions have to be fantastic because there's not that much room.
Yeah.
I think we have room to show the gait a little bit better, whether you're on a little nicer mover or something. And it gives you a real chance to get in and out of them. That you have to know the footfall on these horses, and people don't talk nearly enough about footfall. You know, try to teach the kids, what does it feel like, a 2-beat gait, 3-beat gait. But if I get them to count steps, they can't count steps, and it has something to do with every obstacle. So they need to really learn what those feet are doing.
So harder in some ways, but to be good at the trail that we have today, it's hard maybe in a different way. Like you're saying, our transitions, they're very tight sometimes. And so there's more technicality in our forward moving gaits. Maybe there was a little bit more technicality in some of those trappier, slower obstacles as well. So awesome. Sorry, I appreciate me throwing that in there. That was a good question.
So I got a couple things before we go. So if you can see this is like library of trail here, okay? All my World Show patterns from 25 years, right? One of each of all the prelims, finals, Youth World, Select World, Open World, Amateur World. It's challenging. It's very challenging to keep my bar up, right?
Yeah.
Keep pressing us. You know, back in the 90s when I was just starting to come to Oklahoma, and I've never been that far east, I guess, I had issues, okay? I want to challenge everyone. I want to tell them what California Trail was all about. Ask Charlie and Jason, right? You know, that's how it all started. But then as I got older, I thought, and I can move that many poles. And I toned it down. I definitely toned it down. But I challenge you in a different way. You three in front of me know that if I want to tweak you guys, I can do it, no matter what day I feel like doing that, right?
So true.
Right? But I need to go. I want to let Jeffrey do this one because we talked about this once. Jeffrey, tell us about the old days where movement and the rail work and stuff like that. Remember we talked about that a little bit, how all the movement was because of we had rail work all the time.
I mean, movement's always been around and been part of trail. Years and years ago, like I said earlier, we did the pattern, then everybody set out back, and then you did rail work. So movement came into that even when we just did the pattern alone. So movement's always been a part of trail. So I think today's age, movement has become even more important over poles. And I think where we're trying to slow some things down and go back to some technique is a good thing to make it where movement isn't the only part of trail now.
Yeah,
I agree. And then Tommy and Nancy, maybe both you two will help me last half of this question before I go on. How about just how we warm up in school compared to back in the day? I mean, when trail warm-up becomes a thing, when you guys were a lot younger, I know we didn't have trail warm-up. You brought your own wood, and it was a lot of different ways of schooling your horses. Wouldn't you agree, Nancy?
Yes. I mean,
Nancy or Tommy? Yeah.
There was there was no such thing as a trail warm up until I came to your courses and we started doing that. We had never heard of a trail warm up before. You just jumped in.
Tom, you got any add on there?
How about you, Tommy? You have an interesting wing.
I love the trail warm-ups, and, you can learn so much from, just like Brad said, just watching those other horse trainers, listening, and, it's our time to spend with our fellow horse trainers and learn, and it's a good time, and I do enjoy it as much as sometimes it keeps you out and you have to work so hard, but I really think it makes our horses better, it makes our people better, and it makes us better.
For sure.
Tommy, I remember when the only poles at the horse show.
I just wanted to
hold on, Tim. Hold on, Tim. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry, Tim didn't hear you.
Tommy used to always bring poles to the show,
ahead.
and you looked at the red and white poles. You knew Tommy had been there, and you tried to follow where he had been and do what he had done.
Yes.
Okay,
It's tricky. Okay. I want to move over a little bit just about training a little bit here. Just because I've been side passing more, doing some older school stuff that we did back in the 90s, what skills or fundamentals on our younger horses are we missing that we should look at tonight and try to discuss modern day? For suggestions, you can help our viewers out. I'm sorry, Jeff, Tommy, Nancy. Jeffrey?
Yeah, I think we need to get a little more patience in our horses on our slow work. Talk a little more about what Nancy had brought up on the footfalls for the walkovers. I really liked the obstacle you had at the Prairie Classic where we had to jog in, stop, side pass, back an L, and get walked out. And you had to have a plan for each maneuver to make one work to the other. And I don't think we have quite as many trail horses these days that have the patience to do that as what we used to have.
Got it. And Tommy? Any skills up?
I totally agree with Jeff, but, just going to Florida and then going to Arizona, where, we've let that side pass relax, and there was a side pass in every single course.
Mm-hmm.
So that slow stuff is coming back, and, that back through and that gate where that footwork and that side pass, that slow stuff is so important, and so many people miss that part on those young horses. And it, when you sit out there and you watch those people terrorize those young horses, for not standing still, that's exactly the wrong thing to do. You gotta get their confidence and have that patience for those young horses. It's got to be there.
Got it. Nancy?
I think that it's quite important to be able to move all the body parts separate from one another. And that really does take slow work because it's pretty confusing to the horse. Their feet have never been put on sideways. So side passing itself is a ridiculous move. When do you see them ever do it out in the pasture unless they're going to jump away from something that's going to kick them in the ribs? So for their feet to be pointing forward and for you to be going to the side, you've got to be able to control their face, their neck, their shoulders, their ribs, their hips. Everything has to be in control. If you can't move each piece separate from the other, it makes it a pretty darn hard maneuver.
Yeah. Go ahead, Tim.
One thing I was just going to say is, yes, for sure, side passing is vogue and stuff like that. But what I see in the field is because some people may not have done their homework at home or weren't aware that side passing was necessary to have nowadays, that they're struggling at the warm-up pin because it takes a little time to practice this. I try to tell everyone right now during the virus, I said, you better side pass them back all you can right now because you've got time to do it and sitting there and wait for it a little bit. When we're in that warm-up pin, there's pressure of us getting all our horses schooled, and there's a line waiting for the gate. There's a line waiting for that side passing back, right? Everyone's in a hurry. Bad habits were starting right there. So,
and Jeff, comment on this too, because you're the other judge on this panel. when you're judging a class of 100 or even 50 or 30 or whatever, I guess. But and even if you're not the judge, Tommy and Nancy, if you guys go and you look at the score sheets afterwards, how many times do you go there and you see +1 lope over like all the way down the sheet, or +half, or the judges are staying kind of consistent on that? And then you go to the side pass or the backup or the gate or some of these slow obstacles, and you see 0, +half, -half. That to me is where your difference makers kind of lie. You know, when you look at those score sheets, a lot of time, at least I do when I'm looking at it, and why we try to put emphasis on some of the slow obstacles. Do you have any comment on that, Jeff?
Yeah, I think if you do your homework and don't wait till the show to work on the side pass and the backup, you then can produce that maneuver and perfect it where your hand can stay down through the side pass, through the backup, even at the gate. I see so many people out there that I can't give the +1 to that really do the gate well or back up well, but they're using their hand to do the entire deal. That horse doesn't have, and that rider doesn't have a feel for that horse where it just comes back naturally or side passes softly. Yeah. There's a big difference there that where you can pick up a +1 really easy by just not needing to use your hand.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, John Briggs, taught me that years ago and talked to me about that, and that's something I've always strived to do in those slow maneuvers. Absolutely.
And you know, there's still a feel even with a longer rein to be able to pick up. But it's again, it's if you've done your homework to where if you have to move your hand, do you move your hand from here to here? Or are you just like being able to guide, steer that horse's shoulders, or keep that horse between your feet? In the end, is what we're really kind of wanting to see. If I'm backing up what I'm saying, right? You just want to keep that horse between your feet as you're side passing, as you're backing, as you're making the corner to that L back, or you're going shoot to shoot or whatever. Or is that horse getting more draggy as you go, right? So. Okay, so here comes our fun time of this is all fun for me, honestly, guys. I love this so much. I mean, our shows could go on for hours and hours and hours because we have so much. But this is a fun time for a lot of the people that are out here watching right now. We've got rapid fire time. So it is time to grab your index cards, you three. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for rapid fire.
Question.
This is the time for those of you that may be new. Tim's got 10 questions that these three have not heard yet. So pay attention. We've got multiple choice for them.
Which class, number one, which class has changed the most in the past 25 years? A, Western Pleasure. B, Trail. C, Reining. D, Western Riding. Which class has changed the most in the past 25 years?
Put your card in the middle so we can see it. Right in the middle, right in front of your face, Jeff. Oh, look at that C. Look at that C, Jeff.
Oh my God. DQ. That's
Nancy's
a DQ.
what do you got, Nancy?
C.
Thank
you.
And Tommy said A.
Question number 2. What classic TV Western did you enjoy watching years ago? A, Gunsmoke. B, The Lone Ranger. C, Bonanza. And D, The Wild Wild West.
Gunsmoke, The Lone Ranger, Bonanza, or The Wild Wild West. We got an A.
A. 2
and
A's.
A. What was Tommy's?
C. C, Bonanza.
All right. Bonanza.
3.
I was a Bonanza.
Which riding instrument do you often use? Which riding instrument do you most often use during the week? A, a pencil. B, a pen. C, a Sharpie. D, an erasable marker. Which riding instrument do you use the most during the week?
Nancy's A. Tommy's C.
No,
Jeff
it's not a
is
Jeffrey
Boston.
is.
It's a B for
Oh
Jeff.
my God. You kidding me? Are you kidding me?
I love it.
Tommy Sheets. Tommy Sheets. Everybody, name something Kentucky is famous for. Name something Kentucky is famous for. A, college sports. B, bourbon. C, chicken. D, the Derby.
College sports for Jeff. That's no surprise. College sports. And D&B for Tommy.
D&B. D&B.
There you go, Tommy.
Oh, D&B. Yeah, there's Katie Joe. What class... 5. What class was most challenging for you to learn to show throughout your career? Which class was most challenging? A, Western pleasure. B, Western riding. C, trail. D, none of these. Which is most challenging for you to learn to show? Boston.
Back up just a little bit, Nancy. Back your card up a little bit.
B,
Nancy's
Boston.
B.
I can't tell where it is.
I know. You're good. That's good. B, Boston.
B.
Boston.
Two
B,
B's and an A. Two Western ridings and a Western pleasure.
Question number 6. What part of the body do you often complain about aching? A, your head and neck. B, your back. C, your knees. D, your stomach. What part of the body do you often complain about aching?
Nancy C.
Boston.
Boston.
B. Very
Tommy
good.
is B as well.
Question 7. What trail obstacles are the hardest to teach a horse? A, the gate and the walkovers. B, the backing and side pass maneuvers. C, the bridge and water box. D, the trot overs and lope overs. Which is the hardest to teach a horse?
A, the gate. Look at that.
No.
What are you, Jeff? I didn't see yours, Jeff. Right in front of your face, Jeff. The gate. Wow.
I agree.
Wow.
I agree. Name your favorite style or type of music you like to listen to. A, rock and roll. You got to pick one of these. B, classic country. C, oldies. D, rhythm and blues. Rock and roll, classic country, oldies, rhythm and blues.
Roll, Jeff. C for Nancy.
Oldies,
We got
D,
A and C. Look at that.
Yeah, love it, love it. Question 9. If you had the power to talk to one type of farm animal, which would you choose? A, a horse. B, for bird. C, for cat. D, for dog. Pretty good, huh?
Definitely a horse for Jeff. I can't see Nancy.
Horse.
Nancy's is a horse. Oh, they're all horses. Of course, we would all pick a horse, Timmy. Tim would want dog because he would talk to Jimmy Choo.
Right. You're right. The 10th and final question. When coaching the students, which job best describes this teaching experience? A, a master drill sergeant. B, a math teacher. When coaching trail to a student, which of these jobs best describes this teaching experience?
I'm going to
A master drill sergeant. Go ahead.
Let me repeat it, Tim, because you're breaking up. When coaching trail to students, which job best describes this teaching experience? A master drill sergeant. B, a math teacher. C, a dance instructor. Or D, Dr. Phil of trail. We got a B. Nancy's, back that up a little bit, Nancy. All 3 B's.
Math teachers, wow.
Wow, all math teachers. That's so all of us that have ever said counting is important, you just heard it from 3 masters right there, how important counting is.
Good job, you guys. Great questions. Good job.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Very good, very good. So right now we're going to take a break. We'll be back in about a minute and a half. Do not leave your seat. Do not change the channel. We will be back with Mr. Boston Celtic over there, Nancy, Tommy Sheets, and Tim Kimura. Stay tuned, everybody.
Every once in a while, something comes along that could be a game changer. Enter Unishippers, a trusted shipping source for more than 30 years. If you need a reliable, fast shipping source, turn to a specialist that knows the unique shipping needs of the equine reproductive marketplace. As an authorized UPS reseller, Unishippers offers unbeatable shipping value. Let Unishippers deliver for you. Call Mark and his team today.
Caring for your horses is easy when there's a safe choice for you. If you need one feed for the whole barn, there's a safe choice. If your horses need gastric support, there's a safe choice for them too. Some horses need lower starch and sugar. You guessed it, there's a safe choice for them. There's also a safe choice for mares and foals, for seniors, and for easy keepers. All these horses can gain a lot with science-backed nutrition from Nutrena. Yours could too. For every horse, there's always a safe choice.
All right, we are back. Tim and I'd like to do a little housekeeping here for a minute.
Bradford, tell us who's going to be out here tomorrow and the rest of the week.
Well, tomorrow I know for a fact that we're doing Type the Topic Thursday, and we also will have at least one guest, I think two of our sponsors. Mr. Matt Farrell from Horseman's Future is going to drop by, say hey, tell us what's going on with him, and then we also have, I believe, Mrs. Kimes from Kimes Ranch Jean's going to jump in via phone call. We got a new thing we're going to test out here tomorrow. We're going to have actual phone calls call in that we may be able to start accepting some phone calls from some guests as well, or not guests, but viewers as well. So that'll be kind of a fun new deal that we get to incorporate here for sure. And then Friday we have the Parishes, Mr. Brett Parrish, Mr. Cody Parrish, talking about their past horsemen before Brett and how he's passing it down to Cody, their successes. We all know so many of their successes, and what an amazing family the Parrish family is. We're so fortunate to have them in our industry. So make sure you tune in here 7 o'clock on Friday for that. And then we're going to sandwich the weekend with another couple of pleasure guys. Mr. Cleve Wells and Mr. Steve Heckerman will be joining us on Monday. So that'll be huge. And the influence of this pleasure deal Friday will tie into Monday. It's kind of cool, as we've already talked to Cody and Brett. Pretty cool there. And then Wednesday we have Jim and Deanna Searles coming in for some Western riding. That's awesome. Of course, Type the Topic Thursday again. I believe Mr. Doug Hulls is going to jump in with us on that day for a short bit. And then we have on next Friday, we have Lainey DeBoer and Valerie Kearns jumping in with us for equitation. So holy smokes, it's going to be a busy week, but fun week, educational for sure. So Kona, let's bring these three back in, and let's keep going, Tim. Let's keep letting them share their information.
Okay, so I really like this question. It's about teaching young kids. Can you guys tell me, when you're teaching young kids, what skills do you teach them that improve their communication skills that translates to trail? And I'm going to start with Tommy, then Nancy, then Jeff. Tommy, what do you teach your young kids?
Well, and first of all, they have to have confidence. And so with confidence comes education. When you have that education, and that confidence will follow. So it's so important to do your homework with those kids, teach them to count. Counting is so important. You have to learn to count in this trail. And that is one of the most important things that I have to stress is take your time, learn to count, and patience in this trail. And then with that, their self-presentation, that will come. I mean, that's all as far as doing your homework. And I've had won that walk trot trail a lot of years at that Congress along with your help, Tim. And, those little kids, you got to teach them to count, and even those older kids. It's just unbelievable how important that is.
So, Tommy, can I just add in real quick on that counting? Remember that every gear is a different type of gait and a different beat. So when I'm counting for that walk, it's more like 1, 2, 1, 2, and trotting is more like 1, 2, 1, 2, and loping is 1, 2. It's not like it's the same count for every gear. It's you got to pick the right gear and match like a metronome that gait, that count to the gear that you're actually at. So I apologize.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
But and it's just important for any of those riders to understand that. It's not just like point and go. You've got to learn that feel and learn that count. And with that, you'll get your confidence.
Yeah. Oh, we lost you, Timmy. You're muted, Tim.
Sorry. So Nancy, can you help me with this? Sorry about that, guys.
All right.
I have a lot of little ones, and the majority of the time they can't tell their left from their right, and that makes pattern work quite difficult. But it's amazing that they may not be able to add, but they can go through one of Tim's trail patterns, and I think that is like eye-hand coordination. A lot of times I just make them do it on foot, and I make them do that cadence, even though their stride may not fit quite right. At a walk, most of them can make the walkovers, and they can feel the cadence and the rhythm, and I can count it for them, and then they learn how to count just like Tommy said. But on foot, whether you're a little kid or a big kid, it really shows you what that horse has to do to clear it. He's got 2 more legs than you do, but your 2 legs will carry you over it at the trot, and you might not be able to quite stretch the lope, but you still get the feel of going over that when you walk it on foot. And like I say, a lot of these kids can't read, and yet if you color code that pattern, just like Tim taught us how to do with the highlighters, they can follow it and learn it in less than 5 minutes, and that can be anywhere from 5 to 10 years old. I think it's amazing because they want to do it. They love it. It's different every time. It's a challenge. And that's all of my kids' favorite class.
And they're willing to walk it like hundreds and hundreds of times. I've seen it in the small fry. So, Jeffrey, help me here and just tell me, is there any other skills that we can talk about a little bit to teach at the basics for communication with their horses and everything?
I think Nancy and Tommy did a great job of explaining what has to happen and the repetition that has to take place with knowing the cadence of the trot, the lope, and the walk. The one thing I do with a lot of kids is work on keeping that horse between the reins and their legs and just getting them to understand a straight line and being able to control that horse and keep it between the reins and their legs, keeping their hand in the center. But I think the math is the biggest part of the trail.
I agree. So I'm going to just keep going here for a second. Nancy, I'll let you start. I always find people, they always send to me and ask me to help them. But is there anything we can teach some of these people that aren't trail maniacs, trainer-wise, that we can help coach your kids and stuff like that? Do you have anything easy besides counting?
Can you repeat it because it broke up?
Yeah. So what can we teach some trainers that aren't super trail people how to coach their people? That makes sense? No?
Well, I mean, they need to know it first, and at least have a reasoning for it. If you can't tell somebody why they're doing it, it's pretty hard to make it believable. I've always felt like if, it's not your customer, let's say, or it's a acquaintance trainer of yours, and you see them doing something the hard way, and it's hard to know if they're going to be receptive. But I've never been afraid to go, there is an easier way here. Would you like to hear it? And they're quite receptive every time. And sometimes it helps, and sometimes they don't use it, and that's fine too. But I felt like at least I offered it in a different set of words. A lot of times I'll tell mine to do something, and Michelle will come in behind me and say it differently, and they go, oh, same thing we're telling them to do, but different words. And you go, oh, I understand now. That's the 7th time it's been told to me, and your words made sense.
There you go.
All I know,
I think
sometimes,
that Nancy,
Right.
Tim, I think Nancy brought up a good point there, and I've done it before, and I think Brad's helped me before. Sometimes different words will make it work. So you're being patient. You're trying to get that child through the class, but sometimes just turning to one of your peers and saying, hey, I'm struggling with this one understanding, and have somebody else say it to them at the show. It can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Japanese works a lot, you guys.
Well, and that comes from just having confidence in yourself, right? When we're not all going to know everything. I mean, go ahead.
No, I never look at it that way. If I'm struggling with something or this individual, why turning to Brad Jewett and saying, hey, I'm not getting through here. Can you say it and see if you can get through? Because we're trying to say the same thing.
Right.
There's lots of times we joke around. We only really need one trainer out there because we're all saying the same thing. We're just saying it a little different to each other.
Tommy, let me ask you something. What have you taught your other fellow assistants and stuff like that in your lifetime about coaching and stuff like that? Plus,
You know, just like I talked last night, I did not set out to be a trail trainer, but I was blessed with some really good horses. And then I sought the best help I could get. And still to this day, you know, I get help. You know, Tim, you've helped me at the Congress. And still to this day, when I, you know, just like at Scottsdale, you know, I got help. You know, in order to just keep building and growing and learning, you've got to get help. You know, if you're struggling, I mean, they're the best horse trainers out there. And, you know, I'd go to Arizona, and when Ryan worked for me, and I, you know, when our first trip out there, I said, we're going to get a lesson from Benny Catrone. And he's like, who's that? I'm like, he's the best horse trainer in America. You know? And, so throughout my career, my entire career, I've had the best teachers to help me get to where I've made it. And, you know, you just got to seek that help out and keep learning, and don't get that mental block. I mean, get help.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do, and see people are so willing to help you. And, you know, all along, you know, Jason Gillum, you know, he came to me when he very first started trail, you know, and he's one of the best right now. And, you know, there's just been so many people. Andrew Augsburger, he worked for me. He's a world champion. Ryan's a world champion. There's been 5 or 6 guys that are world champions. And I just stress to them, I mean, you got to keep learning and keep building and keep getting smarter.
Yeah.
There's so many great people in our industry and so many great horse trainers.
You bet.
so with that in mind, I'm going to just switch over to people. Can you guys tell me about someone that you might have taught in trail throughout the years that you might have touched or made them become a better person or be successful in life? It doesn't have to be about successful in trail, but just life lessons a little bit. I see that all the time. People that I've helped that, wow, like, you helped me, and it makes you cry because it's so interesting that you helped them later on. Jeff, can you help me?
I'm really proud of the youth kids that I've had in the past. I have doctors, chemical engineers, petroleum engineers, lawyers, just a lot of kids that did really well. The one thing I always tried to stress to them, and I used to have a board that said it, was practice times 0 equals 0, desire times 0 equals 0, but practice times desire equals winning. And I've always tried to get the kids to get that. It takes both things. You can't want to do it and just have it happen. And you can go practice. And if you don't really have the desire, you're being forced to practice.
Amen.
You're not going to get anywhere. So I've had, and those kids have gone on and done very well. And I'm extremely proud of all of them.
This is why we're here, people. This is why I was so excited to have these guys on, because just those sayings like that, we're not done. And there's going to be more coming up. But those kind of sayings right there, just those are simple sayings, but so truthful. Jeff, thanks for sharing that. Nancy.
I'm just like Jeff. I can't even tell you, 1,000 kids come through here, and every one of them ended up being a valuable citizen. They're Black Hawk pilots and veterinarians, and you name it, they are it. But the story I remember the most, that I feel like I had the most influence over and didn't even know it at the time, was there was a girl that she was pretty young when she came here, and she just flat didn't talk. She did what I told her to do, but she had no comeback, no smile, no nothing for years. And after a few years of success, she got better, and she started to open up a little bit and kind of run with the other kids and do well. And then she turned 18, and it was time to go to college. And I always wondered why she was so quiet. I thought she was just shy, until her mother told me after it was all over. She said, "You realize you saved this girl's life?" And I went, "What?" And she said, she and her brother, when they were young, the house was broken into, and they locked her and her brother in a closet. Unfortunately, they didn't kill them. And she was going to commit suicide. And the horses and the program, and I yelled at her just like I do every other kid, treated her just like every other kid. And one day, many years ago, she came to the Texas Classic with her 2 little children to come see me. Pretty gratifying to think you see somebody's life and not know it.
Yeah, keeping it real right there.
Keeping it real. Okay, Tommy Sheets, bring it home here.
Okay, well, manners and manners are so important to me, and the way you handle yourself in public, and the way you walk, talk, act, eat, handle everything that dictates your whole life. And and everyone that has ridden with me, they will tell you that that's important to me, and I make it very important to them. They say yes sir, no sir, and so many of those parents and those kids have come back and said, wow, you've taught me so many life lessons. And it's so rewarding and to see those kids be successful. I mean, right now I have 2 or 3 families that I'm on the 3rd generation. So that'll tell you how long I've been in the horse business. But, the Bealeys, the Fuzzy Zellers family are back with me, and those Sparks from Louisville. I'm going on 3 generations, and, that's important to teach those kids not only to be, every kid's got to be a horse trainer, but they've got to present themselves in a professional manner at all times at a horse show. And people see that bad attitude or that bad work ethic, or, it's very clear, and it shows in all walks of life. Yep. And that's very important. In my program, this is the way you're going to walk, talk, and act. And anyone will tell you that.
Yep. I think that's just part of our job description when we have youth kids, personally. I mean, I take that as, I take that shield on, whenever I get a kid, is that you go say thank you, yes sir, not yeah, no, but like engaging, learning how to talk to people. I think your responsibility how to take care of your own horse and not have somebody else always do it for you. Those kind of things. I think that's my responsibility with youth kids, to be able to instill into them. Because that's what I had to take care of everything of mine. I had to learn to be able to take care of it if I wanted it to last. So I just think that's part of it. So thank y'all for sharing that. That's awesome information. Tim.
So next. One more thing here. We all make sacrifices, okay? Monica makes sacrifices for you, Brad. Tina makes sacrifices for me. Yeah. Doing this show every night, it's pretty hectic, okay? And I know all 3 of you have spouses that have made sacrifices, and they're independent enough to stay at home while you guys do your job and go to horse shows. Can you just touch on that a little bit, how you guys have stayed together so long, and how you guys have made these sacrifices and lived through the 20, 30, 40 years of training? Maybe Jeff, then Nancy, then Tommy, like that?
Well, anybody that's met my wife knows how lucky I am, because she's been great to me over the years. I think I'm very fortunate in that Dawn we met when I was in Wichita, and Dawn had been in the school system and taught there for about 5 years before we got together. So she had a group of friends. I had a group of friends. And so when I left, it wasn't a big deal because she had already been there alone that way. And that made a huge difference. But we have common things. We're both big college basketball fans. We sit around and watch a lot of basketball. Unfortunately, this year it ended too soon for us.
Yeah, right.
But we have other things in common, and we're both very family oriented. The kids come first, and so that has really helped with everything. Seems to work out really smooth that way. So I'm as lucky as they come. So.
Perfect. How about you, Nancy?
Evan and I have been married 47 years, a little longer than you other guys. We met in college, and his involvement in the horses had started with his grandfather's race horses, and he was laying up race horses that were crippled. And I took 11 head of horses to school with me when I went to college. I don't know what parent would allow their kid to do that now. I would never let mine do that. But we got married in college and graduated, and I think besides being great loves and great friends, we were always on the same page. And I find that here lately, people aren't on the same page financially. They're not on the same page with what they think their kids should be doing. Pretty hard to have a harmonious marriage if you're fighting all the time, and we just really don't. I figure we're the luckiest two people that have ever been married in the horse business, because y'all can count how many didn't last.
Right.
And for various and sundry reasons, but we love home. We love our kids. As Jeff said, they are always first. Maybe grandkids now are.
Right.
But I do think it's being on the same page with an important thing.
Okay, Mr. Tommy Sheets.
Yes. Leslie and I have been married for 30 years, and I've been going to 100 horse shows for the last 35 years. So definitely we've had our challenges, but when we got married, she's like, oh no, not another horse show next week. Well, it's still there, and she's a great person, but she owns her own interior design business, and she's a workaholic, and we had that son Murphy, and he was definitely a challenge. And, so we've had a great life. She's independent. I'm independent. We're workaholics. We've got him raised, and everything is in a great spot, and we absolutely love each other.
Thank you for sharing that. All three of you, thank you for sharing this, because it's super important for our show that we go there for keeping it real, And like I said, both our wives and girlfriends sacrifice all the time for what we do, and I appreciate both of them for letting us do that. It's Kona too. So go ahead.
I've got a question before we head out of town here. We got about 10 minutes left, and I always like to ask this before we break, especially when we have so many of my own mentors on the show. And what things could you say in a few minutes, each of you, that could help the next generation of horse trainers? We've talked about it yesterday. Maybe you've had a chance to think about it, to be able to have kind of a summation. And then lastly, kind of give me, as you close, what you would like to see maybe not happening in a trail warm-up pen that you see. That maybe there's youngsters coming in thinking they could do this or that, and you're just like, I really wish that they wouldn't do that. I don't have anything sticking out in my head other than maybe the pole that's like 5 rungs up on the rail, staying up people low, but are standing in the way. I said I didn't have anything, but oh my gosh, they're like flowing out of me right now. When there's a small warm-up pin and people are just standing in the way of other people trying to get warmed up when they're done and they're just talking and blah, blah, blah. So real quick, just give some words of wisdom to the next generation that are striving to be where you guys are, and then something about that you could help our trail warm-up pin next time you're at a horse show? Let's start with Jeff. I'll go from my left to right on my screen. Jeff, we're going to start with you. We'll end with Tommy.
I think it's pretty simple. Be polite and considerate. We see those that come in there and just feel like they own it and they take over the pen. There's people waiting in lines for things. Don't work on it forever. Take your time and do it correct, but don't dominate the pen. The thing I really don't like seeing is if you're having trouble with an obstacle, most likely you have that problem without the obstacle there. Go off somewhere away from the pattern. Work on that, either that side pass when there's not a pole, or work on the maneuvers to do a gait and get that horse to listen to you without all that pole and having everybody else stand beside you, because 9 times out of 10, you don't need the obstacle to actually fix what your issue is, whether it's steering or whatever.
Perfect. Nancy?
Was this a 2-part question? One
It
about
is. Just, words of wisdom for the next generation. And it can be related to the trail warm-up, or it can be related. But I would like to hear some things in the trail warm-up pin that you would like to see kind of thing.
Okay, well, you can write a book on etiquette for the trail warm-up pin. And
Right.
Mostly people are so focused on what they're doing. And I mean, I am so guilty of being in the way, especially if I'm on foot. I get in the way, and I try to find me a place that is not in the path.
Yeah.
Because it's dangerous, for one thing, when you're standing there, much less on a horse standing there. And I think that, if you have to go through the back through a couple of times, that's fine. But don't sit there for 30 minutes when other people need to use it. Just come back to it. And a lot of times Tim will put 2 back throughs, 2 gates up there, and go use those. The other part of that question was, what can we do to help the younger trainers? A lot of them want to go hang their shingle out right away. It takes a good deal of money to do that. If you've got the backing, I suppose that's fine. The best thing you can do is find someone to work for that's good to you and who actually teaches you, not just as a hired hand, to make you into a horseman, not a horse trainer.
There you go.
We're very lacking in horsemen. So let all these people with the knowledge pass it on to you. Take advantage of it.
That's perfect. And that's kind of where now that you said that, that's where, because Jeff, I believe you had said there's a horse show trainer now and there is a horse trainer. Is that correct? And I don't want to misquote you, but when we were talking about it, like there's horse show trainers and then there's horse trainers, and we're just trying to encourage those people. And right now, being home when we can't go to a horse show, I feel like we're going to come out of this with better horsemen, better horse trainers. We'll see when we get back to the horse show if these horsemen have been doing their job, because we go from horse show to horse show, and so people kind of feel like they become horse show trainers instead of horse trainers, horsemen. Did I quote that right, Jeff?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think sometimes we have those individuals that Tim challenges with his courses every weekend, but instead of doing the basics at home and being horsemen and getting horses top basic maneuvers, they just wait for the pattern at the show and then go, okay, we're going to teach him how to do that today and do that. So, and like Nancy said, I think she made a good point there on people going and working for somebody and learning true horseman skills.
Yep.
I've been blessed with so many people in the past, from when I was a kid with Dean Smith, who won the reigning fraternity years ago from Council Grove, Kansas, through Jody Gallion, Nancy Sue Ryan, Stephen Carroll Metcalf, on up to the boys, Charlie and Jason, Leslie Lang. I mean, there's been so many people that keep you learning and educated through time, and you never stop learning. So stepping out on your own without really getting some basics from some professionals is really difficult.
Awesome. Tommy, close us out with your words of wisdom and what you...
Okay. First of all, I'm going to touch base with the trainers. And, if you want to end up and you want to make a good living and you want to go to bed at night and and have a good set of horses and have some money and have a retirement, you have got to become a teacher. I mean, you've got to learn to teach. You've got to treat those customers with respect. You got to treat those horses with respect. And you've got to not only be a horse trainer, but you've got to be a teacher to really to be a success and run down the road and have some money at the end of the day. You know, and I want everybody to be a success story. As far as trail etiquette, you know, if you move it, put it back. That's why I get up in the middle of the night and do my trail, because I'm probably not the best etiquette person. So I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and do my trail. But with all that being said, you know, I want everybody in our industry to be a success story, you know, and we're blessed. We got great horses, great judges. We're so blessed right now, and this trail is booming. I mean, it's the biggest thing going, and we got to keep it going. And Tim does a great job, and I just appreciate everything that people do for us. AQHA's doing a great job. I mean, everything is on track for our industry, and if we don't get some shows going, Leslie's going to kill me. So we got to get to going.
I love it. I love it. Great close there for all of you. Thank you so much. I love that meat and potatoes kind of stuff, you know, like let's dig in and let's help those that are learning, wanting to get to that position. So that's one of my favorite parts of having guests like you guys on here. I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention earlier, our sponsor, C. Letchworth Bits and Spurs, has given each one of our guests here a $50 gift certificate for a Chuck Letchworth bit. So thank you, Gino, for that. C. Letchworth Bits and Spurs right there. You three, we're going to push you off the screen for a second while Tim and I close up, and then we will be, you don't have to hang up. We'll catch right back up with you. But Tim, is there any closing words that you'd like to say before we go?
Yeah, if Jeff Mellott could see me, here is my Laker logo. Sorry.
You can see. You can
for all your Celtic stuff tonight. Thank you three so much. I appreciate it so much. Love you guys a lot. You guys are great.
Yep.
Love you.
Yep. Thank you, guys. And remember, Type the Topic Thursday tomorrow. And on Friday, we have Brett and Cody Parrish. So you don't want to miss that. Some new stuff that I did not know about. So please make sure you stay tuned on Friday. Watch Facebook. Get your reminder set so that your phone automatically will come to it and remind you about it. Good.
Make trail great again.
Everybody, make trail great again.
There you go.
Every once in a while, something comes along that could be a game changer. Enter Unishippers, a trusted shipping source for more than 30 years. If you need a reliable, fast shipping source, turn to a specialist that knows the unique shipping needs of the equine reproductive marketplace. As an authorized UPS reseller, Unishippers offers unbeatable shipping value. Let Unishippers deliver for you. Call Mark and his team today.
Caring for your horses is easy when there's a safe choice for you. If you need one feed for the whole barn, there's a safe choice. If your horses need gastric support, there's a safe choice for them too. Some horses need lower starch and sugar. You guessed it, there's a safe choice for them. There's also a safe choice for mares and foals, for seniors, and for easy keepers. All these horses can gain a lot with science-backed nutrition from Nutrena. Yours could too. For every horse, there's always a safe choice.
This has been a Kona Cam production. Thanks for watching. Tune in next time.